and welcome into the Wheelhouse here, Elevation 5280 Sports and Lifestyle. Basically a Super Bowl reaction show for you this evening, as Mark Sexton with me, filling in once again. Mark, how are we this evening?
Hey, I think the entire nation got what they wanted tonight, so I'm doing pretty good.
Yes, we will talk about everything Super Bowl related, including the commercials or lack thereof commercials. We will get each other's, although we already know each other's opinion on the halftime show, we will get to that as well. And we will just have a bunch of stuff to talk about here on the show, as it is Super Bowl 59 in the books. The Philadelphia Eagles have dethroned the Kansas City Chiefs. Finally, the three-peat will no longer happen. We won't have to hear about it for 8 months. We won't have to see Kermit the Frog everywhere. It's just over, Mark, and it's good to finally see another team win it, although the Eagles won it literally like 8 years ago. So we'll see what happens here in just a little bit, as time will tell. And yeah, again, a lot of reaction going on here. A lot of reaction we'll get from you if you have any. So just a lot of things to go over, including the NFL awards that were also handed out over the last week. And we'll get into the post NBA trade deadline to see where these teams sit after the smoke has cleared. And so don't forget to go to all of our socials and things of that nature and hit us up there. Go to Facebook, X, wherever you can retrieve us. There we are. And go to Instagram as well, just all over the place. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify channel, just wherever you can. And sorry, just got a weird note. But yeah, there has been a lot of talk already. Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl MVP as well. So we will get into everything. And everything, of course, is encapsulated in a little segment we like to call Fire and Ice.
It's now time for Fire.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
He's on fire!
I'm the only one, a burning desire. Let me stand next to your fire.
And Ice.
Ice Cube, baby.
You're as cold as ice. Ice, ice, baby.
Fire and Ice, if you're new to the program, kind of a who's hot, who's not over the last week or so in the world of sports. Mark, where do you want to start this evening?
You know, I feel like we do an ice the last few times. Let's start with the fire tonight.
All right, and the fire list, obviously the hot list, if you will. And yeah, speaking of hot, I wish I was still in nice, cozy, warm Orlando, Florida. Mark, I'm still wearing the shirt in remembrance of my time there, and it's not only a Hawaiian shirt, Mark, but it's a Disney Tommy Bahama. So
I love it. It's classic. That style
listen,
never go out of look. I mean, you're good. You're golden.
Yeah, still got the Orlando Blues. All right, since we're starting with the fire, the NFL honors happened, and I don't know if you want to call it controversy, Mark, surrounding some of these or a lot of these awards. Obviously, we'll get to the MVP last, because that's probably going to be the biggest topic of discussion. But this is where they hand out the Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie, just everything. And obviously,
everything that matters.
Yeah, the Offensive Rookie of the Year was, of course, the quarterback for the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels.
Love it.
He wins the NFL Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he did have an incredible year. If you ask me, Bo Nix statistically had a better year, but what do I know? I'm not a voter. And, they say it's not based on the playoffs, because if it was, then, yeah, you give it to Jane Daniels. He won a playoff game. But supposedly, Mark, it's not a playoff award. They vote on these things way before the playoffs really even happen. But again, what do I know? I'm just a doctor. And for a rookie, though, had a pretty good year. Mark, 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, QBR of 100-point win, got Washington to their first playoff win since 2005.
No, I honestly, I love it. I love the pick. I love Jaden Daniels as an athlete, as a person. I think it was a great pick, but I love that you touched on it because I think a lot of it has to do with how far they went in the playoffs. Everybody can just say whatever they want. Oh, this is a regular season award. It's not. It's not. If it was, I feel like we would get updates week 16, week 17, um, finalists, if you will. And then we'd get our answer week 18. We don't get that until almost the Super Bowl. So I love that Jaden Daniels won it. I understand where you're coming on from Bo Nix, who arguably can be the next franchise player for Broncos, and not only the franchise player, but everything that he did was positive. Even his negative plays, even some of his bonehead, scratch your head. I don't know about it, but these experiences and the things that he did for the Denver Broncos franchise, that, in my opinion, you got to be happy. If you're a Broncos fan, you got to be happy. Nothing but future ahead. So I get where you're coming from on that, but I love the Jaden Daniels pick. I call me a bandwagoner or whatever, but I love the pick. I love everything Jaden Daniels did this year. He did better than C.J. Stroud last year. I'm on board. I love it.
Yeah, and I saw, I don't know if it's a meme and I thought I saved it. I guess I didn't. But again, I'm not mad at the pick for offensive rookie of the year. But it is a shame that Bo Nix got 0 votes. 0 votes for offensive rookie of the year. And again, statistically, he had a better season than Jaden Daniels, but they both had the same record. Their stats were really, really close, but I see why they went the way they did. All right, what Bronco did win, though, was Patrick Surtain. He won Defensive Player of the Year. And if you look at his stats, Mark, not really like blindsiding stats. You know why? Because they didn't throw to his side. He only had 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, only 45 tackles, and he did have that 100-yard pick six. But, his numbers aren't flying off the page because they never threw to his side.
No one wants to pick on Surtain.
Yeah, which is like 95% of the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's only the 7th cornerback to win the award, and first, how about this, since Deion Sanders in 1995.
No, I love it. And personally, I think they need to find new standards for that, because if you could come up with a stat that tells me that they pick on 85% of the other side of the field other than you, that's got to be something that comes to, because Surtain did his job. What else can you go off of when you're locked in, you're doing your thing, locking everyone down, and then you get punished for those stats because, oh, well, they didn't throw to you. You didn't get enough interceptions. You didn't get enough of this. You didn't get enough of that. How else can you beat those stats? They need to look more at the side of, they're not throwing to me. They don't want to do that. They know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, again, 95% of the award are those low stats because, everyone's like, well, how come I didn't hear Surtain's much name called in that game? Well, it's because they stayed away. He basically took away a whole half of the field and didn't get the chance to have eye-popping numbers. But, if teams threw to his side more, he might have more interceptions, more tackles, stuff like that. So, Pat Surtain, the defensive player of the year. Offensive player of the year, again, I honestly, again, we don't have votes, so what do we know? But I would have voted for this guy to be MVP, and it was obviously the Eagles running back Saquon Barkley. Just had a ridiculous year. Obviously, now a Super Bowl champion. His first season in Philly, but he goes off for 2,005 yards. Had a chance to break the record if they wanted to. Seems like a classy dude, Mark. There was a game earlier this season where he could have broke the single game rushing record, and they asked if he wanted to go back into the game. He said, no, let the kids play. And I'm sure he said probably the same thing, like, hey, if you want this record, you can play this last game of the season. And I'm sure he said something like, no, let the other guys have some fun. So he did end the season with 2,005 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, almost 6 yards per carry, Mark. That's crazy. 17 catches, by the way, and 2 more touchdowns on the receiving end as well. So Saquon Barkley, your offensive player of the year.
No, I love that pick. And once again, like you said, just all class. First class in personality, first class on the field. Number 26 on the programs, number 1 in your hearts. Love it. Just the same thing when they were playing the Packers in the first playoff game. Could have ran that back for a touchdown, slid, took the down, said, hey, it's all about winning. It's not about personal records. Once again, like you said, week 18, got a chance to break a record. Now let the kids play. Even tonight, I mean, they blew the Chiefs out of the water, and he stood back, didn't even care about it. Hey, we're bringing the Super Bowl home to Philly is his mindset. I love it. I love a hard-fought player, winning first, personal record second. Everything that you love in a player, it just unfortunately he's not on your team, right?
Yeah. Again, I would have voted for this guy to be the MVP of the league, to be, as the kids say, to be dead ass with you. I would definitely
No
would
cap.
have got that vote. Yeah. I mean, he's got the Riz, right? So we move on to comeback player of the year, again, probably a guy you could have voted for MVP. I mean, Joe Burrow had an outstanding season. I get it. The Bengals, I mean, I don't know, the line between it's a regular season award. It's not a playoff award, and I get Cincinnati didn't make the playoffs, but Joe Burrow had an outstanding season, Mark. 4,900. He was only 82 yards away for throwing for 5,000 yards. That's how crazy his season was. 43 touchdowns, only 9 picks, QBR 108.5, whatever that means. But Joe Burrow had a season for the ages, just unfortunately couldn't get to the playoff dance. But again, another guy who probably should have received more MVPs than he probably did.
Right. No, I agree. And here's the thing. I love Josh Allen, and I love everything that he represents and everything that he's done since being in the league. Joey B was coming in with the season that he had, with the injuries that he's had, with the the trials that the entire Bengals team had to overcome. It's just one of those things, in my opinion, where stats kind of ruin what players actually do. And this is the perfect case to show it. Joey B came back. I've always called him on my show. I always call him Joey B, the QB for me, doing his thing. And once again, just coming up short, just unfortunately, just because the city of Cincinnati just can't figure it out with that Bengals team. I mean, honestly, he's a great quarterback, does what he can do with only what he has in front of him, and he fell short only because, like you said, people like you and me don't have votes.
These people probably are glad I don't have votes, but give us a vote, will you? All right, defensive rookie of the year goes to LA Rams defensive pass rusher Jared Verse. Had a pretty good season, 36 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. For a lot of guys, that doesn't seem like a lot, but for a rookie, it is pretty darn good. So he takes home defensive rookie of the year. What do you think about Jared Verse?
No, I actually love that pick. Honestly, for a rookie defensive player, I couldn't really think of anybody else. Um, just doing his thing. I mean, going in there, acting like a veteran, making every play count. I mean, he was the difference in a lot of situations. So I really that's one I'm like, okay, all right, the voters got this one right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And then moving on to coach of the year, which this one
Hated
kind
it.
of, yeah, this one was a head
I
scratcher
hated
for
it.
sure. It was well, I don't know if you hate it because it was the Vikings, but it was definitely, I think it was a head scratcher for even more than that. And it was Kevin O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. They had a 14-3 record. They didn't even win the division. They got upset in the first round of the playoffs by the aforementioned Washington Commanders. And I really did not understand this pick. You had so many other coaches
Dan Quinn
who
should have
turned.
won it. Dan Quinn should have won it.
Dan Quinn should have run it. Again, may sound biased or not. Sean Payton probably should have been higher than where he was. Um, I mean, there's probably four or five guys probably that should have been ahead of Kevin O'Connell. And I get it. He took a scrub in Matt Darnold, or yeah, what's his name? Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, see, I'm so discombobulated with this pick that I don't even
But
know
you
the
know,
dude's name. But again,
but,
we're zero research, all reaction here. But Sam Darnold, you take a scrub like that dude who's been on 4 teams in a year, and you go 14-3, and a lot of people didn't expect the Vikings to even be in the situation they were in. So I guess you got to give him credit for that. But this was definitely a head scratcher for sure.
yeah, well, I mean, but and ultimately, the Vikings team was pretty much established. It wasn't like Dan Quinn came in with the Washington Commanders and with a rookie quarterback, kind of replacing certain pieces on that offense. The defense was almost there, but he completed it. I just, for me personally, I don't understand how Dan Quinn didn't win it. Now, you brought up a great point in Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos, where everybody was mad. You know, hey, Russ is the problem, and this and that, and everybody's going back and forth, and they bring Bo Nix in, and all of a sudden they're doing their thing. And not only are they doing their thing, but they're doing their thing on both sides of the ball, where Denver obviously found themselves in the playoffs. Now, they found themselves in an unfortunate situation going against the Buffalo Bills first game, but nonetheless, they went from 0 to hero pretty much. So I hate the Kevin O'Connell pick. Like I said, I feel like the Vikings were way more of an established team than either of the two teams that I just brought up, the Broncos and the Commanders. And Dan Quinn should have definitely been on top of that.
Yeah, like I said, there's probably 4 or 5 different guys you could have went with, and I would
Right.
have been okay with. But when I saw the notification come through that Kevin O'Connell won, you're just like, huh. I mean, you're like, I guess they had a good year, but still, kind of weird. Obviously, the MVP was I wouldn't say a head scratcher, but a shock to a lot of people, as of course Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills wins the award. Bills went 13-4 this season. Obviously, made it again to the AFC title game. Fell short to the just dethroned Kansas City Chiefs. Again, I mean, these numbers are what they are, Mark. I don't know what you do. 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 6 picks, QBR 101.4. Lamar had more, obviously. That's what a lot of people were saying. Again, I would have gave it to Saquon. Hell, why not?
Right.
And Joe Burrow obviously had way better numbers than that. I mean, hell, Bo Nix had more touchdowns than Josh Allen did.
Right.
So,
And I was just going to touch on that. And that's crazy to me. And don't get me wrong. Like, I love Josh Allen. I wanted him to win it last year. But this year, what did Lamar have? Like 40 something touchdowns? Bo Nix had, I think, 7 more touchdowns than Josh Allen.
well, he had 29 passing, but he had 35 total because Bo Nix had like 6 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's for me, that's a heavy stat to ignore. once again, in my honest opinion, and I was telling my brother this earlier, where I feel Josh Allen should have won it last year, and they kind of just did a made up. You know what I mean? Oh, let me make up for this one because this year I don't feel like he should have gotten the offensive player or the MVP of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely a shock to most. That they were leaning in the direction of Josh Allen or I almost I almost say Kendrick Lamar Jackson. And why not? I mean, it's a quarterback driven league. I get it. Just give it to somebody new. Give it to a new position. Give it to a running back once in a while. And then what really had me kind of grasping at straws, Mark, was the Hall of Fame selections. Now I get, always the terms are first ballot. Is he, why you call it first ballot? He's a Hall of Famer nonetheless. So we'll go over the list here. Antonio Gates, the former tight end for the then San Diego Chargers, but the LA Chargers franchise, 955 career catches.
Well deserved.
Almost. What's that?
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Almost 12,000 receiving yards, 116 touchdowns. Again, all for the Chargers franchise. Jared Allen, formerly of the Chiefs, Vikings, Bears, and Panthers, 497 tackles, 136 sacks, 31 forced fumbles, 6 picks, and just an all-around defensive pass rusher for a very long time. And then Sterling Sharp, yes, the brother of Big Mouth Shannon, and we of course love Shannon in Denver.
Go Pack go.
595 catches, 81,000 yards, 65 touchdowns, all for your Green Bay Packers. And then Eric Allen, cornerback, played for the Eagles, Saints, and Raiders, 433 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 54 interceptions, 120 pass deflections as he makes the cut as well. Do you have a problem with any of these picks? Were you surprised like a guy like Eli Manning who just won the pick?
I'm glad you brought it up because I want to play a little game with you right now. I'm going to call it blind resume, okay? So you've got completion rating. Now, player A has 65.3%, player B has 60.3% completion rating. Passing yards, 57,000 for player B, 57,023 yards. Player A, 71,940 yards, right? Pass yards average, player A has 7.7, player B has 7 even. Pass yards per game, player A has 270.5, player B has 241.6. Passing touchdowns, player A has 539, player B has 366. Interceptions, player A has 251, player B has 244. All right. Championships, both of them have 2. Super Bowl MVPs, player B has 2, player A has 1. Which one are you picking?
I'm assuming the player A is Eli Manning. No?
Player A is Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Player B is Eli Manning. Now here's my point with all that. My point is we are talking fractions on the number. Why didn't Eli make the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. It's a head scratcher for sure. Honestly, I will go out and say I think Eli deserved it than all these guys that made it this year.
Not over Gates. Not over Gates.
Okay, I get it, but I mean, is rings not the defined thing anymore? Are we not going off rings? Because none of these guys have rings.
Agreed.
So if you want to go that route, then Eli Manning has 2 of them and took down, by the way,
the main guy.
2 New England Patriots and Tom Brady, one of which they were heading for an undefeated season. So
right.
I don't know how Eli did not get in. I'm surprised he did the kick of destiny. I would be pissed off and be like, F you guys, I'm not doing this. But I mean, the Manning seemed like cool dude, so whatever. I'm sure he's upset in his private whatever. I'm sure Peyton's upset for him. I'm sure Archie's upset. I'm sure Arch down in Texas is upset. But yeah, I think Eli deserved it, even over Antonio Gates. I mean, Antonio Gates had a hell of a career, one of the best tight ends of all time, obviously. But if we're going by rings as a defining standard, we talked about standards. What was it this last week, Mark? We talked about the MLB Hall of Fame and standards. You need a 300 average. You need 300 home runs. You need 300 wins as a pitcher. You need what? You need, I don't know what the saves mark we talked about is, but if we're going by standards, I get that probably Gates met the tight end standards, but Eli definitely surpassed the quarterback standards as a Hall of Famer.
Agreed. No, I completely agree. And it's crazy to me that a 5% completion rating separates these two men. And he threw less interceptions. And now, okay, you want to talk about the passing touchdowns, that's fine. But ultimately, like you said, the 2 championships that he won, in my opinion, far surpasses the 2 championships that Peyton won. He took down who everybody wanted them to take down, which was Tom Brady at the time.
Yeah. And yeah, Peyton's first championship, I wouldn't call it soft, but they ran into a Bears team who had a very good defense. They kept Rex Grossman in. They probably, I mean, Kyle Orton got him there. Kyle Orton and the Bears defense got him there, and they stay with Rex Grossman. The rest is history. Look what happened. And the second one, I don't know. Carolina was a very good team. They were hot coming in. And again, it was the Broncos defense that really, really got them there. Peyton was facing all sorts of injuries. So call it what you will. The thing that I think Peyton had going for him, Mark, heading into his Hall of Fame was he was I wouldn't say cast off. Is that, for lack of a better term, from Indianapolis? They're like, bro, we got to move on from you. We got another generational talent and Andy Luck coming in. And so he was basically kicked out the door. Broncos picked him up. He won 2 more MVPs. He won Comeback Player of the Year. Nobody said he would even be able to hold a football again, let alone win 2 more MVPs with it. So I think that helped his case, being able to come back from a neck injury that a lot of people said he wouldn't.
Right. And I don't know, like I said, and it's hard because I feel like, once again, stats kind of get in the way for these kind of picks, where I feel like stats almost ruin the game. Where when you talk about, like, for example, when you talk about running backs, like the greatest running back ever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going strictly by numbers, that's Emmitt Smith. That's got to be Emmitt Smith. But it takes away from guys like LaDainian Thompson, like Clinton Portis, like
Walter Payton,
Barry Sanders doing his thing. I mean, and it bothers me because I feel like they vote strictly off of the wrong stats, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and stats don't tell the whole story. I mean, look at Terrell Davis. He really only had 7 good years,
right?
And he made the Hall of Fame. He
look at Bo Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. So let me play a little trivia game with you. All right. So player A has 849 receptions. Player B has 595 receptions. Player A has 11,389 yards. Player B has 8,134 yards. Player A has 68 touchdowns. Player B has 65 touchdowns. Player A averaged 13.4 a catch and has 2 Super Bowl rings. Player B has 0 Super Bowl rings. Who are you going with?
Just like you, I'm going to go with the Super Bowl rings, right? You got to. That's got to be the ending stat, right?
Yeah, so player B just got into the Hall of Fame in Sterling Sharp. Player A is Rod Smith, who was an undrafted player, mind you, out of
so was Antonio Gates.
Yeah, out of Missouri Southern State. So if and again, I don't know if Shannon Sharp, because every time they ask Shannon Sharp about the Hall of Fame, he does probably the most brotherly thing and says, "Put Sterling in." In his hall, he introduced Shannon into the Hall of Fame, did all this, and he finally gets his due. But if Sterling Sharp makes the Hall of Fame, Rod Smith better be right the hell behind him.
Right. No, I completely agree. And that's, like I said, I feel like just stats kind of ruin the argument of the game. Stats ruin what a player was instead of, like, for example, this is my favorite example, and I think it was Matt Vasgersian who said it on MLB, and right where you hit 110-mile-an-hour line drive, and a third baseman catches it, right? All you're going to see is a line out to 5. But your stat book ain't going to show exactly what that third baseman had to go to get to it, right? And I think that's the problem with stats is it doesn't, like you just said, it doesn't tell the whole story. It tells part of it, but it doesn't tell what the player was and who the player was.
Exactly. So we will see, I guess, if and when Eli Manning gets into the Hall of Fame, and I'm still going to be knocking down the door for Rod Smith as well. All right, the NBA trade deadline obviously is coming past, as we'll sneak a little bit of basketball in here. It's the smoke is cleared, Mark, and guess what? Anthony Davis up to his old tricks, getting hurt. His first game with the Dallas Mavericks. He just goes down on a non-contact. Listen, before his injury, though, he was having a very good game. I think he had 26 points, 12 rebounds, and like four block shots, something crazy like that. And then he goes down, and I'm trying to pull up the exact injury. Here it is. So he's going to miss multiple weeks, and he could miss up to a month, Mark. A month. It says a left abductor strain. Question. What is an abductor? I mean, is this like an alien can't abduct him anymore, or is it just science term for a ball strain? I'm guessing because he was holding his groin. I don't.
I asked my buddy. It was funny that you say that because I looked at it when I got the notification. I was like, "What the hell does that even mean? What are we talking about?"
Yeah, I don't know what an abductor is besides being abducted by something or someone
Right.
or anything. So I don't know. But he's out for what could lead up to a month. And I don't know if you saw this. The Lakers tried to trade Cam Reddish and Dalton Connect to the Charlotte Hornets for a big man, Mark Williams. That trade was actually eventually rescinded and denied by the league because of failed physicals. So that trade never even went through for the Lakers. So there was a whole bunch of memes on socials, Mark, saying Dalton Connect was the best Charlotte Hornet there ever was. He never missed a shot, never missed a game. And all of a sudden he is back on the Lakers because of a failed physical. And I don't know if it really went into specifics on who failed the physical, but again, the dust has settled on the trade deadline. And is that going to be a weird locker room dynamic, Mark, that Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish kind of have to go back to the Lakers and they're like, I guess we're playing for a team that tried to trade us. I don't know.
Dude, I feel like it is, once again, I mean, you're just going out with a almost made up injury. I mean, that's got to affect everybody. Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I don't get it. But that trade again did not go through as someone had failed their physical. The Clippers were busy at the trade deadline as well. Some of this stuff happened after we went on last Sunday. The LA Clippers got Bogan Bogdanovic from the Atlanta Hawks for Terrence Mann, Bones Highland. Bones Highland was eventually bought out, so he's kind of hanging in there in free agent purgatory. One of the big ones that kind of went under the radar, Mark, the Cavs traded Karis LeVert and Georges Niang to the Atlanta Hawks for DeAndre Hunter. Cavs were kind of in need for a big man, and they got a pretty good one in DeAndre Hunter. Not really under the radar, but the Suns ship Yusuf Nurkic, who was very, very, I guess, detrimental. He got benched. He was out of the rotation. He got traded to Charlotte for Cody Martin and Joker's homeboy, Vasily Micic from Serbia as well. A lot of Nuggets fans wanted him to join the Nuggets, but he goes to Phoenix, and then the Raptors acquired Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans. That one kind of flew under the radar, and obviously the big one that we didn't get a chance to touch on, good old Jimmy Buckets. The saga in Miami is finally over. He goes to the Golden State Warriors, which this trade was so hard to follow. I had to edit our Twitter like 5 different times because there was like, oh, it's a 3-team trade. Nope, it's a 5-team trade. Nope. Dennis Schroeder this, Dennis Schroeder that. And I wanted to put Dennis Schroeder on our ice list, but I'm going to shout him out right now. He basically called the NBA trade deadline modern-day slavery. And anytime you bring up a taboo word like slavery, Mark, you're going to get thrown into the headlines, good or bad. And it's funny because he said the NBA trade deadline's like modern-day slavery. And he proceeded, Mark, on the NBA trade deadline to get traded 3 times on the same day. And they were like, well, here's your modern day bleep. Have fun. He was I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said, you have a contract with a team, but they can ship you and deal you wherever they want. You have a home somewhere, you're gone the next day. And then he proceeds to get shipped 3 different times. He ended up on Miami. They didn't, and something happened. He ended up in Toronto. Toronto dropped out of the deal. So Miami shipped him to Memphis, I think. And it was just all over the place. So Miami ended up with Andrew Wiggins, which, no slouch of a player. He was a main cog in their championship a few years ago. Kyle Anderson goes to Utah, I think, or Dennis Schroeder went to it was just a mess. But the main thing is that Jimmy Buckets has finally found a home with Steph Curry.
And no, I agree. I share the frustration with Schroeder because, I mean, to keep it G-rated, I feel like Schroeder was kind of treated like a $2 lady of the night, if you will, because it was like you said, you're going here, you're going there, you're going to do what I say. I don't care about your contract, and I do agree with him. And Jimmy Buckets, just because of who Jimmy Buckets is he gets to kind of hold the cards in that situation. And this is where everybody forgets that, obviously past the player is a human, and not only a human, but a human that has feelings and a house and bills and, a future and all these things outside of the sport. And like Schroeder said, it's an unfortunate situation. And I really, really dislike how Jimmy Buckets handled that entire situation. We talked about it last week. Like, hey man, maybe just be quiet. Like, maybe just stop. Just stop. Right? You've already been too far ahead of yourself. Just quit. And he didn't, and he kept going, and he kept doing his thing. And it was an unfortunate situation for those around. But I mean, it's finally done, and hopefully that those involved can finally find some peace and some tranquility, because that was just
It was a mess.
ugly.
Yeah, I mean, it was drama in every sense of the word. And again, it was so hard to follow. I eventually gave up on trying to edit our social media pages because like new things just kept coming out, and I'm just like standing in line at freaking Mine Train Snow White ride in Disney, and I'm trying to keep up with all this. And yeah, the smoke is finally settled. Jimmy played his first game. It seemed like he was having fun finally. He did say, I want to have fun playing basketball again. He called out Pat Riley. I mean, he was just going all out on his way out the door.
Reckless.
So, yeah, and then in the Bay now, he changed his number. He put Butler the third now on his jersey, so he's got a fresh start. And then Valanciunas gets traded from the Washington Wizards over to the Kings. Kings are kind of stacking up. I like their roster. They get Valanciunas. They get Zach LaVine. I mean, they're making a push for it. I kind of like low key this trade that the Bucks made. They send Chris Middleton to the Wizards
Yes.
for Kyle Kuzma. So now Kyle Kuzma teams up with Giannis and Dame out there in Milwaukee, and you're
Love
just
that.
like, I mean, and then now of course news comes out that Giannis is hurt, that he's going to miss the All-Star game. Who cares about the All-Star game? But
Right.
so yeah, a bunch of stuff went down. Smoke is cleared. Obviously, the big one was obviously AD for Luka. Luka has yet to step foot on the court, and as soon as AD did, he apparently hurt a nut. That's what we're getting from that. Your abductor. So crazy.
I was kind of shocked. I was kind of shocked with Katie and Phoenix.
Yeah. The trade that
I
wasn't.
yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong. Like I think Katie's got a season or two left in him, But if you're coming back from the Phoenix side, it's like he's 107 years old, basically. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, same
But
as the temperature out there.
right, right. But and I was fully, and I think the world was fully expecting the Suns to deal that, and they didn't. And where they're at in the standings kind of shocks me because it's okay. So what push are you trying to make now? I mean, really, if we're being honest, the Lakers making a move, everybody else feeling, in this kind of pressure making a move, and the Suns don't deal KD. I don't know. I don't know what happens there now.
Yeah, and again, it kind of goes back to that. Is it going to be awkward in the locker room, in the offices? And KD does have a no trade clause, so they said he nixed. They said he nixed himself back to the Warriors, and then the Warriors had to kind of switch gears and go with Jimmy buckets. And then I think he nixed himself to somewhere else. I don't remember where, but he basically turned down two trades that was going to happen. Obviously, Bradley Beal stays in Phoenix as well. Like we just mentioned, Nurkic is gone, but he wasn't really in the rotation anymore. And then they proceed to get blown out by the Nuggets last night. So it all went full circle.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. So it was a crazy last week in the NBA for sure. All right. Obviously, number one on the fire list, the Dynasty is no more. The Eagles soar. And this was a crazy game just because Kansas City just looked not themselves, lethargic.
Sports.
Patty Mahomes was just, he didn't have that same fire. Like usually when he throws a pick or does something bad or gets, I mean, he's got some fire to him, like trying to pump up guys. I mean, he just kind of sombered back to the sidelines, like however Kermit the Frog talks. But I don't know. And the Eagles were just flying, literally in every sense of the word, pun intended, if you will, flying all over the field. I think what they have almost tied or broke the single season sack with 7. I think they had 6 sacks of Patty, 2 interceptions. One was returned for a touchdown, 1 fumble, 1 strip sack, fumble recovery. So they were just all over the place. What was your overall reaction? Just the Chiefs did not look like themselves. They kind of got it together, with a couple touchdowns, but obviously by then it was too late. Just what was your overall reaction?
Well, first and foremost, and I think I speak for everyone in America, where I am happy that they didn't win. But honestly, I was shocked. I got scared. That offensive pass interference with AJ Brown in the first quarter, that was nonsense. And I was like, here we go again. This is the referees making a difference. And the Eagles hunkered down, did their thing. What's crazy to me is they did not. I mean, they did, but they didn't, right? They did not like fully solely rely on Saquon and his running game. They honestly they put on a defensive clinic, and I was happy with that. I was astonished how well they were able to not only maintain Patrick Mahomes, but they were able to maintain that receiving core, right? They were able to, excuse me, but they were able to just kind of shut them down in all aspects of the game. And the, I guess everybody's been talking about all week long. Got to get up a couple of scores. Got to have a couple of early stops. They did all of those simple things that led into really a big Super Bowl win, and they blew them out. I mean, that last touchdown that Worthy caught, okay, congratulations, whatever. It didn't matter. And they recovered the onside kick. It just from start to finish, it was a defensive clinic. And even Jalen Hurts came out and said, hey, defense gave us ample opportunity in multiple different positions to kind of just execute. And I mean, obviously the pick six, that one interception, that diving interception was phenomenal. I loved this Super Bowl. I think it was great. I think that the Eagles were able to do exactly what we all wanted them to do. I'm also low key sad that it wasn't a shootout. I was hoping for a closer game, but I'm happy with it ultimately. We all got to stop the evil, the bad man, if you will, and and we all get to go to sleep at peace tonight.
Yeah, and we don't have to see Pat Riley giving up the trademark three-peat. Now, how do you? That's enough. I mean, how do you trademark a phrase? By the way, that's. I guess
Genius
you got
move.
to. I guess you got to be Pat Riley to trademark a phrase.
Genius marketing point, dude. I mean, look how much money he made just off of this Super Bowl, and it was what 30 years down the road. I mean, good for him. I mean,
Yeah,
even
crazy.
though even though it didn't go their way, he was able to just make money off of a sport he was never involved in.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't know how you trademark a phrase, but I guess you got to be Pat Riley to be able to do that. And yeah, now we don't have to hear about it. So the Eagles win. Obviously, we mentioned Jalen Hurts, almost 300 total yards, 3 touchdowns. He had one rushing. I'm kind of mad because Patrick Mahomes didn't do anything, so none of my parlays really did anything.
And
Um, I had I had Juju Smith-Schuster with it was like a catch and a half, and DeAndre Hopkins a catch and a half, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cruising, and I think I only ended up with like maybe not even half of parlays, but yeah, I was glad the Chiefs got buried there for about 3.5 quarters, just holding them under watermark without any let up, and it was obviously good to see them get dethroned. All right, let's move on to the ice list really quick. Number 3, we kind of already touched on, so we won't spend too much time on it, and that is Anthony Davis already getting hurt for the Dallas Mavs. Again, a ruptured ball is what we're calling it, and I really don't know any other way to put it. He just goes down in a heap, and that's really all we could say. So, Luka was supposed to and is set to make his Lakers debut tomorrow, Mark. So maybe we'll get to see Luka in the purple and gold for the first time, excuse me. So we will see. And by the way, we just got a note here. An adductor strain is an injury to the muscles on the inner thigh that brings the legs together. That sounds like something, Mark, I want no part of.
I mean, I'm with you, but at the end of the day, right?
Man.
You're in a new locker room, and all of a sudden it's like I can't imagine because I feel like the rest of the clubhouse is like, here we go again. Here we go. Let's get him on a snap count.
It might as well have been a strained ball, I guess. But here's the causes: overuse or sudden forceful contract of the abductor muscles, trauma to the inner thigh, improper form during exercise. AD, are you stretching? And weakness in the abductor muscles, pain in the inner thigh, tenderness to the touch, swelling, bruising, difficulty walking or running. So there you go.
Got to take care of yourself, right? Got to take care of the body. What did Pineapple Express? Safety first. Wear shoes in the house.
There you go. All right, number 2 on the ice list. Listen, everyone pays billions of dollars for these commercials. Everyone really, if you're not a football fan, you're sitting. People have commercial pools, commercial drinking games, commercial everything. And to be honest, Mark, I can't even really point out a commercial that really stood out besides, honestly, the new Jurassic Park looks pretty
I love
entertaining.
that.
Yeah,
I love that. I want to see it now. That had me
yeah.
juiced.
Apparently, all the bad, the bad test tube dinosaurs got casted off on a whole nother island. So we will see
Right.
what my girl ScarJo has in store for us. But yeah, that's really the only. I do like the Uber Eats Matthew McConaughey ones, but even that one
It wasn't
was,
great.
yeah, it wasn't. He,
It
you
was
know,
it was a regular prime time commercial. It wasn't. I don't know, and I like the one that CC was in. I think that was a great message for the young
oh yeah,
girls.
the Nike commercial was good.
Yeah, I thought that was great. But I mean, ultimately, it was so underwhelming with the commercials that, yeah, just
Yeah,
it, it,
yeah.
it, it was like the halftime show for me.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a moment, but yeah, I just couldn't. Besides Jurassic Park, there wasn't really nothing, and that was at almost the very beginning of the game,
Right.
the Jurassic
And,
Park
and
one.
I mean, the only other great one, I guess, great, and I'm using that loosely, but because if you were on the internet, you saw the Bud Light commercials with Shane Gillis and Posty. I thought that one was funny. I thought it was great with Peyton Manning. But I mean, ultimately, once again, like I said, we've already seen it. If you're on the internet and you're frequently on the internet, you saw 80% of that commercial, 90% of that commercial. It just there wasn't any funny ones that stuck. And I miss the old days where, remember the the
Yeah,
Budweiser, we just did not get an iconic commercial.
yeah, we did not. Obviously, you're looking forward to like the Doritos ones. Speaking of abductor, the alien tried to abduct the Doritos bag. Wasn't really funny. We're always looking forward to the beer commercials, like you just mentioned. Peyton Manning was kind of funny in it. Um,
But you already saw it.
yeah, but you already saw what was leading up to all of them, like you mentioned. So again, it was kind of a letdown as far as commercials were concerned. So not really, not really anything that really stands out. The number 1 on the ice list, obviously, the Kingdom is no more. The Eagles soar, Chiefs collapse. We kind of touched on the Eagles, but the Chiefs, they almost did their part on defense. They only held Saquon to like 60 something yards. They kind of shut down the Eagles run game, and that's probably what Spags was keying in on heading into this game. We can't let Saquon beat us, but then you have a pretty versatile guy at quarterback, Mark, who can beat you as well. Pretty good receivers out there as well. That bomb to Devontae Smith was not only the final nail in the coffin, but kind of an fu to the
Yeah,
Chiefs.
it
Because
was
everyone thought they were going to run on that play, obviously, because it was a play action pass. And yeah,
one on one.
yeah,
Anytime with
and
the Glen
then I want
Reaper.
to go. Yeah, I want to go back to that first offensive pass interference on AJ Brown, and the collective. Here we go again in everybody's household happened because they're like, oh, here goes the refs again. I mean, it was incidental contact. Tom Brady hated it. The one dude who's the referee on the broadcast hated it. And how about
Kevin
this,
Burkhardt,
Mark?
yeah.
Only one penalty on Philadelphia since that one.
No, and I love that.
Yeah,
But like you said, dude, every household lost their shit. And what's crazy to me is the what happened to the mutual combat rule, right? Like hand on hand, it is what it is. His hand, you know, grazed the face mask, and it was like you said, everybody's heart sank, everybody's stomach went down low, and it was like, hey man, what are we doing here, man?
yeah.
And it just It bothered, and it was like for me, and I said this, and I was like, "Yo, already the referees are impacting the game. This is a problem." But like you said, evened out. Thank goodness, because, geez, I don't know if we all could have stomached, if you will, another controversial call that would have decided the game.
Yeah, and credit to the Eagles for playing a very, very clean game. I mean, all the calls went against, went against the Chiefs. The only really penalty after that offensive pass interference was like an offsides call on the
Yeah.
defensive line. That was it. So credit to the Eagles' discipline, to whoever's. I would assume that's like quality control or somebody is in charge of cleaning up
Behaving.
penalties. Just it's almost like in basketball, play good defense without fouling.
Right.
They played good offense and defense without fouling, pretty much. So credit to them.
They put on a defensive clinic, honestly. Defense. And here might be an unpopular opinion, but I did not like that Hurts got the MVP, only because I felt the game was won on the other side of the ball, not because of what Jalen did or did not do. I think he had a great game, but I mean, listen to these stats, right? 21 to 32, 257 yards, 3 tutties, and 2 INTs, 2 whoopsies there, if you will, for Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, for being real, that last touchdown and maybe those last 70 yards didn't even matter, if we're being
No.
honest. So it's like they did their job putting that man right where he was supposed to be. The leading rusher was Patrick Mahomes with 4 carries and 25 yards. The leading receiver was Xavier Worthy. Now, he had 157 yards and 2 tutties, right? But really only one of them counted, and you're talking maybe 100 yards that mattered. That was in the point of the game. So ultimately, the defense won the game, and like you said, 6 sacks tonight, 6.
Yeah, crazy.
So I mean, they did their part. They had 1 pick 6. They had a total of 2 interceptions. Ultimately, the defense did what they were supposed to do, and they gave the ball to Jalen Hurts and to Sirianni to say, "Hey, here's the playbook. Open it wide open.
Yeah,
Do what you
call
need to
whatever the
do."
hell you want.
Yeah,
Everything worked pretty much. And then
agree.
we mentioned 6 sacks, no roughing the passer penalties, and no unnecessary roughness penalties. The one that came almost right after the offensive pass interference, Jalen Hurts threw it high to Dallas Goedert. He jumped and then he got hit like on his way down, and they caught that one was even a little soft. I'm like, wow, they're
Yeah.
calling that.
And they
And
called
that
it
was
the
kind
right
of
way.
weird. Yeah.
I say the right way, but what the fans wanted anyway. But and on top of all of that, right? There wasn't those tacky calls that we're all accustomed to, right? Like I said, all of our stomachs got sick in that first quarter with that fourth down, or that fourth down pass, or I'm sorry, that third down pass that led to a punt, and there wasn't any more of that. And I think because of the narrative, and once again, I've talked about this last week and on my show, and I don't buy completely into the conspiracy, but everybody was like, "Here we go again." Like you said, here it is. And the Eagles were able to maintain, and not only maintain, but behave themselves. Like you said, with, good basketball defense, shut them down without fouling. And not only that, but they were able to just keep their offense on the field damn near all night long.
Yeah, the time of possession was crazy. At halftime, the Eagles had more points than the Chiefs had yards, which is
Hey,
it was 24-23 points to yards, which is absolutely insane with a Patrick Mahomes led team. They just did not look themselves. I don't know what was wrong. It just didn't seem like Mahomes had the fire that he usually does. I turned to somebody and said, I think he might be hurt, and he's not saying nothing. because this was not the same dude who literally had just won 2 Super Bowls, coming off another pretty good season. You know, they threw the stat up there on Fox tonight, and it was 12 games won by what, 3 or less points, and they had, I don't know what I don't remember what the record was this season, but they had 12 come from behind victories. That did not look like a team who came from behind 12 times this season, Mark. It just didn't.
No, no, and what's even more crazy is, I mean, if you look at the score at halftime, I mean, we're talking, leaps and bounds compared to what this team has delivered all season. And this is kind of something that I was talking about a few weeks ago when we were on, and it was like, hey, in my opinion, don't buy into the mainstream narrative where the Chiefs and the Lions are going to run away with it, because I mean, look, they proved it. The Eagles proved it when they came in, and what did they go? What was it at halftime? An exact number was and I'll tell you as soon as ESPN decides to load. At halftime, it was 24-0.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even close. There was no chance, in my opinion. Not a chance of a comeback, but there was no chance of a hey, we're not going to stop. On the Eagles side, especially when they came back right after halftime, getting that stop, and they scored. They outscored the Chiefs 10-6 in that third quarter. I mean, it was once again going to the drawing board and making it happen, right? Executing that game plan.
Yeah. So I maybe more stuff will come out as the post Super Bowl days go on, and maybe maybe we'll hear of like a significant injury. I don't know, but that's my guess. Is I don't know if Mahomes is right. He just did not look right the whole game. So I don't know. Maybe something was there. I don't know. Shout out to Thomas here who texted in. Even Kenny Pickett got a ring before Dak, so that was thrown in there. I was like, hey, throw Carson Wentz in there. Let him try to do something against his old team.
Right.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, hey, thanks to Nick Foles, Carson Wentz got one, right?
Yeah, I just had a notification come through. It said Nick Foles from the top rope. I don't know what he said, but I'll open that here in a minute. But really quickly here, this is kind of a bonus. Fire? Is it fire? Is it ice? Obviously, it's kind of was a heated conversation a little bit. But where does the Super Bowl halftime show? What list would you put it on? I'm assuming, Mark, you would put it on the ice list. Honestly, I wouldn't put it on any list. I'd leave it right where it is in the upside down, in the in between, and I would just leave it there because it was kind of meh. But a lot of people on social didn't like it. Other half loved it. Other half said, it wasn't for you, the common viewer. It was for the culture. I don't want to get into what that even means, but obviously, if you listen to Kendrick music, you know what he was saying. I heard a lot of people write and say, you couldn't really understand him. Maybe that was a production problem, or whoever's keeping track of whatever. Serena Williams made an appearance in the halftime show. I thought honestly he would bring out somebody besides I don't even know who the backup girl singer was, but I thought he would bring out like a bigger guest, but I guess obviously not. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand. It was kind of meh, Mark. But let's face it, there was 1 billion people all together in unison who all said A minor.
Yes. And I love that part, actually.
Duval.
No, I love that part. I think the Drake diss was very much necessary. I think that everybody needs to be reminded what Drake did. However, I agree with you. Listen. I think Kendrick Lamar is in, what do you call? fantastic performer and artist. I'm a big fan of rap. I don't want to put him even in honestly in my top 10 of rappers. I think that was more of hip hop. Um, but I do think that the quality team failed him where we weren't able to understand anything that he was saying or any words that was coming out of that microphone. The noise and all the background that kind of took into play, which I think took away from Kendrick Lamar. But once again, like you said, everybody knows they're not like us. Everybody knows when he talks about A minor, who they're talking about and what they're talking about. And I think that was fantastic that everybody was in unison on that. And in my opinion, the in the last decade, if my memory serves me right, the best halftime Super Bowl show was Bruno Mars when he was out there with his drum kit, just getting it and just letting them know something. And I know that probably doesn't bring a great memory for you. However, I think that was a great Super Bowl halftime show that nobody can compare to. And in comparison, Kendrick Lamar doesn't even come close to Bruno Mars. But like I said, I don't think he was done right by the production team or the quality team. We couldn't understand him and we couldn't hear him.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is his fault because these artists in any hands they don't get paid anything to do this.
Right.
But I think it was missing something, and maybe it was missing a guest artist, or it was missing like that X factor that would have made it probably better or greater than it was. And I don't know. I would go back to just a couple years ago, Mark. I like the Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem halftime show. That was probably on my top three right there. Obviously, I wouldn't place this Kendrick one on top five. Probably not even top 10 list of halftime shows. I'd have to go back and look at a lot of them. But recent memory serves the Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, even Kendrick came out in that one as well, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
And 50 Cent and all those guys. That was a pretty cool halftime show. I like that one as well.
No, and I agree. And honestly, I was telling my buddy earlier, and I think I was talking to you about it. I would have loved like a secret Mary J. Blige entrance into that somehow, some way, just because they made it work, a few years back. But yeah, he missed that punchline factor, if you will. And like I said, the production team didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, and the choreography, whatever, it was cool. I didn't really understand was it a tic tac toe board?
It was,
Um,
I think it was Squid Games.
okay, then that made even less sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, um, I guess that makes sense if it was Squid Game because the background dancers, they were dressed in like hoodies and stuff, but they were dressed like the American flag because they
right.
literally made the
Which,
shape of an American flag.
which I love
So,
that part. You know what I mean?
so I don't know. I was just playing devil's advocate with a lot of people. Obviously Kendrick has been one of the biggest names in music. Not only him, I mean, I commented on somebody's post. They were like, it was terrible, but I'm just an old white guy, so the NFL doesn't cater to me. I'm like, no, it doesn't. I mean, Kendrick has been the biggest name in music for the last 5-10 years. I'm
At
like,
least
dude has 17 Grammys, so no, they're not catering to you.
they're
They're
catering
catering
to
to the
what
times.
everybody likes to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Nope,
that's
I agree.
yeah. So I
I
mean,
agree.
again, it could have been better, obviously.
And no, and like I said, and like going to recent years, and like I said, this is probably more than 10 years ago now. But like I said, Bruno Mars doing his thing with the drum kit, doing his thing with that guitar. I think that was the best thing that we've had. Literally, shoot, I can't even count how many years back. I honestly put that as my number one Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, I mean, you miss the old days of wardrobe malfunctions and
I almost brought that up.
Yeah, miss those days of yeah, just wardrobe malfunctions and just good music. Um, yeah, I still like the Dr. Dre Snoop Dogg one. Um, you know, a lot of people even like a lot of people have the Prince one in
Oh, the
in their
Prince one was
in their
good.
top
Yeah,
five.
Purple Rain.
Not Michael. Paul McCartney was in a lot. I've seen a lot of people's top, which was okay. Bruce Springsteen a lot of people's top. Yeah, I don't know. Justin Timberlake in a lot of people's top.
Hey,
I
yeah,
do like some JT, but
yeah. I put JT over Paul McCartney for sure.
well, yeah, I think even Paul McCartney puts it over. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, yeah, so it could have been better, could have been probably worse, maybe. I don't know, but either way, it's over. It's in the books again. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for absolutely. I wouldn't say demolishing. The score wasn't even as close as the game wasn't even as close as the score shows. A lot of garbage scores there near the end. But congrats for the Philly. Only their second championship in franchise history, by the way. Their first, obviously, coming back in 2018, once again beating the New England Patriots.
And good on Sirianni. What's that? 2 and 4 years. I mean, well, he went to 3 and 4 years, winning 2 and 4 years. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess shout out to the stupid Chiefs for almost being that's what my question was going to be for you before we get out of here, Mark. And what defines a dynasty? If the Chiefs were to have to won today, would they be considered? Because obviously the Patriots were a dynasty, right? I mean, again, I don't know the exact numbers. I have to go look and see what did they win, like 6 in 12 years or 6 in whatever it was.
10 years, I think.
Let's
6 and 10.
Let's see. Tom Brady's 90, so yeah, somewhere around there. It looks good for 90, by the way.
He sure does.
So yeah, they were considered obviously a dynasty. What would have? I mean, would this got the Chiefs started on a dynasty?
In my opinion, I already thought of the Chiefs as a dynasty, and I think anybody who says otherwise is either a hater or someone who doesn't particularly follow football in depth. So I think that the Chiefs were exactly who, once again, like what's his name said, they were who they thought we were, or,
Oh,
going on that. But
Good old Dennis Green.
Danny Green, yeah, I mean, doing his thing, but I really do. I think that they exactly were who we thought they were. They're that dynasty. I think the Eagles were that team to come and shut them down on tonight. Now, one thing about football is different from other sports. We're not going to have multiple games in a championship. So I think that the Chiefs were already a dynasty, but the Eagles were able to save the free world from having to see the three-peat.
Yeah, so the Patriots have 6 rings, 11 Super Bowl appearances, and they have 6 rings in, we'll say, 17 years. So they they dominated for basically 2 decades, which, again, is considered a dynasty. The 1970 Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty, I mean, they won literally 4 times in the 70s. That's got to be a dynasty, right? The 49ers literally won 5 times in the 80s and 1 more in the 90s.
Right. And Steve Young and Joe Montana and doing their thing. And once again, I think the Chiefs are a filed down version of that, because very easily they could have won 3 in a row.
Yeah. And I mean, 7 straight AFC title appearances on top of that. Dallas Cowboys, hate them or love them. Were they a dynasty? They won 2 in the 70s, and then they won 3 more in the 90s. Maybe. And then we just brought up the Chiefs. They got 4 Super Bowl titles. Their first one was in '69, and '67. But then they obviously won one. Oh, I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers. Sorry. The Kansas City Chiefs, their first one was in '69, but then they won 3 in 4 years, 2019, right. 22, and 23.
And like I said, I think that's what qualifies them as a dynasty, in my opinion.
So there you go. Commanders, did they used to be a dynasty? They won 3
back in those 90s, huh?
Well, they won 82, 87, 91. I didn't think it was that spread out, but
I thought it was closer too, actually. Yeah.
But there you go. So, well, maybe a dynasty no more. I don't know. But the Eagles once again win this game 40-22. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. Once again, the Kansas City Chiefs dethroned from winning that Pat Riley 3. Do we have to say Pat Riley 3-peat when we?
I think we do.
And just then we gotta, and then
legalities.
Really fast at the end of the show, we have to be like 3-peat is a registered trademark by Pat Riley Incorporated, something like that.
Like Ricky Bobby did on Talladega Nights.
Yeah, exactly. But we all hope you enjoyed the game. Hopefully, I did win some money on some squares, by the way. After the end of the third quarter, I won $200. So
there you go.
It's always good when you don't care about the game, but you somehow win.
I blinked tonight. Saquon didn't run like I thought he was going to. It was. I'm in shambles over here on the gambling side.
Yeah, on the
battered and bruised.
Yeah. What can you do? You just gotta. Well, now football's over, so you got to turn to something now.
My Padres ain't looking so hot, so I got to lean on my Detroit Red Wings.
There you go. All right, but thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you enjoyed the little recap with us this evening. Undrafted, Uncensored. We were co-living it there for a few. So hopefully you enjoyed Undrafted, Uncensored on the socials as well. And Mark, thanks for sitting in once again. But that's going to do it for us here on the Wheelhouse. Make sure you go to all of our socials, Facebook, X, Instagram, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, and go to our home base, e5280sports.com. Our X handle has changed, by the way. It's no longer at 5280 Sports Radio. It's at 5280 Sports Life. So go and check that out as well. But for Mark Sexton, I am Michael Spill, and we will talk to you again soon.